All right, we're going to go over why Africa needs a superhighway. See, the problem with Africa right now is that they have a very little transportation infrastructure, which makes it so they can't export goods at the price that they need. And they can't import goods cheaply. It costs significantly more to get anything in or out of Africa. This is especially true for landlocked countries and other areas where there's authoritarian regimes. So by building a superhighway, it make it easier to create businesses within Africa. This would decrease their cost of production, which would increase their GDP, which would make it so more people in Africa would be able to create businesses. This would stir an economic development within Africa. If we were to allocate funds for their aid only into building the highway and hiring Africans, we are then giving them all jobs. By giving them jobs, they're able to support their families, which eases the burden of aid needed to help develop Africa in general. See, this is a major problem that we have with aid, is that we are giving them aid, but we're not actually creating any businesses or any infrastructure that is desperately needed within the country. By providing them with jobs, they are able to start their own businesses, they're able to go to college, they're able to educate themselves, and they're able to give back to their communities. And that is the biggest thing that we need to be focusing on, is creating an environment where they're able to help produce new goods and services within their community and be able to give back to their community. By doing that, you're also decreasing the likelihood of crime. As many people know, crime is directly correlated with poverty. A big issue also is that there's a huge language barrier in Africa. By creating a superhighway, it's going to increase people traveling, which will also decrease language barriers because they will be less culturally bound to one area. By mixing of the cultures, it is more likely for them to eventually coexist without breaking into civil war, which we see in many different African countries as of now. This happens a lot, as I said, because of cultural differences and language barriers, and due to the control over certain goods and services within the area by rebel groups. This is especially seen when the diamond trade that is in Africa that is mostly controlled by rebel groups. This is not just the diamond industry, but many blood minerals that actually come out of Africa. Many of these minerals are actually found within your phone. They often wind up in Indonesia and normally smelted down. At that point, it is no longer being able to tell where the minerals came from. A lot of people are trying to put pressure on increased regulation to stop this from happening. But Africa needs to take a stand within their own country to increase regulations themselves and to increase tariffs upon these minerals and diamonds and increase the cost to a cost that it actually provides the laborers within these mining communities a fair wage that allows them to take care of themselves and their family. Many of these places are actually slave labor places. You are not able to leave the mining industry. It is completely covered by people with guns. Normally they have AK-47s and they tell you you cannot leave. You are paid when you are mining, but it's a very minimal amount, and it's only enough to stay within the mining community and to barely feed yourself. By building these highway systems, it would also be easier to find the criminals that are conducting these huge operations that are pretty much humanitarian destroyers. Pretty much. What I meant to say is that these groups are in clear violation of human rights acts and that they should be dismantled as soon as possible, and that a highway would help create access to help to de-establish these rebel groups and authoritarian regimes around the world, and it would help economic prosperity in Africa. And that is a major point that I'm trying to make about why they need a highway and why we should probably help them fund that instead of all the random funding that we're giving their government that they're just using as funneling into their own bank accounts. Because it's very commonly known that most of the aid that is given to Africa is actually going to corrupt politicians and rebel groups themselves. And that's why I believe that a superhighway would help, because it creates jobs for Africa. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't help oversee it, because we definitely should, because we should make sure that as many resources as we can get from Africa and as many Africans as we can to hire, so they all have a job, as many as possible. We should be doing that. And that's what I really meant by this. And if you agree with me, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. Either way, comment your opinion. If you want to see more videos like this or anything else, just subscribe, and I'll try to reply to all the comments I get on this. All right, y'all take it easy.